Good afternoon. I think it's like 3:30 or something. Anyway, I have three, and my hair's crazy because I have nothing to put into it, and I've been with my hoodie on and off. Anyway, who cares? I'm trying to record while there's like trains coming, but screw it. So I have three conspiracy theories that I want to go through. So it's a little bit quieter over here, but basically, I have three conspiracy theories. One of them is, what if this quote unquote Earth experiment, flat Earth, round Earth, whatever you want to call it, is actual Garden of Eden? And so you had Adam and Eve, and they reproduced. Their kids obviously had to reproduce with each other, causing incest, right? Hence, deformities in some if they continue doing it within, sibling to sibling instead of like secondary cousins. That's why I guess that rule was, your second cousin or farther extended is better. Otherwise, you get deformities. That's one conspiracy theory that I'm not going to go farther into about replication and cloning. The second one is about cloning. So I did mention that the federal government does not ban cloning, but every state bans it. However, there's more than 13, I think there's 17 cloning facilities in Massachusetts alone. 13, I think, in Cambridge, Massachusetts alone. And then I did a really bad guesstimate of mathematically about how many, in 20 years, how many clones have been made. It's about 15 million people that are cloned, by the way. And that's just cloning. That's not including RAPEing women and having them have the baby come out, like stealing my eggs and having other women have the baby. That's still cloning technically for my DNA purposes, but it's not cloning in the sense of what well, I guess it is. So that's the second hypothesis. So that's where multiple amounts of clones come in, and they are NPCs used for, for building things on a massive scale. That's the second conspiracy theory. Third conspiracy theory. It's a spiritual one. Say that there's only a certain amount of actual souls, the 144, the so-called chosen, right? Everybody else is a clone. We'll use that. Let's continue with the cloning ideology. Everyone else is a clone. So if everybody else is a clone and they're an NPC, they don't have souls because they're not part of the 144. And if this is a simulation and the omnipotent God Almighty uses those 144 to experience this material reality and wants to continue experiencing the reality, so it's like a nice little video game to keep it entertained, the omnipotent one, then every time one of those vessels that has one of the 144 dies, that soul goes into another vessel that is bloodline identifiable or similar to the original. Hence why they need to steal like my eggs for that. Now, going back to the concept of the first conspiracy theory, what if Adam and Eve, reproduced, incest, whatever, and created, like in the Bible, several different houses or kingdoms or dynasties, whatever you want to call them. So say there's about 7, right? They used one as a sacrificial lamb to uphold the rest of them. So if you make that analogous to the royal families that have been using trafficking to torture for keeping anti-aging products, to harvest organs for their deformities because of incest. The Harrington royal family was used as the lamb, the sacrificial lamb, so that they could harvest the energies to maintain life in this simulation. Otherwise, their human simulated bodies would die, and that's why they continued to create clones using that body. I am one of those clones so that I could be a sacrificial lamb. Supposedly, I had 10 lifetimes already that I've gone through. That means they have made 10 clones of me. I would be the 11th that would have died. And there's 10 clones that have already died because they have been used over the course of 40 years, because my life, I'm almost 40, I'm 39. That's a lot of deaths to keep you guys alive. Why do you need to stay alive that long? Why does the power need to be that way? Anyway, so those were my 3 concepts. I hope you can hear me because I am in a train station. It's just I don't want to talk at the shelter because people want to knock on the door and be stupid. And it's been a crazy day. One more thing I do want to say. This is for entertainment purposes only. But I did see a couple people that I do know are clones. I mean, very spitting image clones of the Andrew Newtons, of Julio Noriega, of one of the boys that's at the shelter. I mean, spitting image of that boy. The only difference is he had a cello. Cello. I wonder how many spitting images of me are out there. I remember when Angel sent me a picture and he said, "Is this you in this commercial?" That girl, I had to take a double take, so she probably was created out of my DNA. Or DNA that's nearly identical to mine. Did you guys kill her too, or you let her stay in the industry for a little bit? Because that was a commercial of her. How many of us have to be sacrificial lambs? Celeste Rivas was a sacrificial lamb. One more thing before I do shut this off. Instead of making sacrificial lambs, the other conspiracy theory about there should only be 5 million, or I think 5 million people or 500,000 people, supposedly the satanic or whatever deep state, shadow government, whatever you want to call them, wants to, they had the tablets, those huge tablets where they had encrypted, only so many people should live on this earth. We should have only a population of this, blah, 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 and it's only going to be 1/3 of the population. Well, yeah, it should only be that 1/3 of the population, because those are the 1/3 that are actually the 144 frickin' souls, or 144,000 of the frickin' souls that actually should be existing for the experimentation of God Almighty for this matrix. So we created all these additional people so that we could continue having this experience. I understand that, but to keep using people and throwing them away, but then trying to claim that we have rights and everything, I mean, a broken system, a lie. I don't know. I don't understand why we didn't build the system differently to begin with. But not just that. So all these people that are quote-unquote clones, since they're unneeded, since they're technically NPCs, I don't see them. We created them already. They're humans. They're alive. Whether they have one of the 144,000 souls or not. Whether it's not a matrix to them. This is their life. And they have every right to play the game as wealthily and as happily as us. I don't know. It's a lot for me to process right now. But one thing that was amusing, the one with very interesting energy, I know it wasn't the original that I met the first time, but this one still carries that same energy. I felt it. He's the only one. I haven't felt anybody else that carries that energy. The only one. But I'm going to say this. If all of these people were planted in my life, I keep on making this longer. This is the last thing I'm going to say. If all of these people were planted in my life, the only one that I think is worthy of staying in my life would be Angel, regardless of what he has done. Really. But the original Angel. Not a clone. Because even if he comes back, even if that vessel dies and comes back as one of these clones, it's not him. The one that looked like Julio Noriega, he could look like him. He feels like him. But I know it's not him. It's not the memory that I have of him in this vessel. which makes this life just as alive as what the omnipotent one feels when he puts his vessels, the 144, into us, his, consciousness into us. His consciousness is just as much a consciousness as these vessels have. That's the way I see it. I couldn't kill these people. They deserve to live too. That's all I want to say.